Allegra,
Yes.
holding your pet orchid reminds me to ask you, what did you make of that statement Tanny made about you in Bugaku, that you were a rubber orchid?
I love that statement. Oh, I loved it.
Did she say it to you?
No, I read it in an interview that she'd given, so it was one of those books. I've forgotten which one.
Because the whole orchid image somehow suggests Bugaku.
It does.
And rubber suggests you, so a combination.
I love that. I was very excited about that.
Can you use that feeling of rubber, that sense of rubber, for anything in this ballet?
Oh, yes, because the stretches should not just flop into, everything is very deliberate, and so it's almost like you're stretching rubber.
Yeah, you were saying that to Janie, you know, push through.
They're invisible.
Push through
That metaphysical opposition that you have to push against. It gives it weight. This is about weight. It's about...
Well, you must have used all the words you used, all of which seemed appropriate. The one you used most frequently was deliberate. It seems to me that Bugaku is a ballet that particularly applies to you because so much is contained and almost suppressed in the girl's part.
Yes, which is something like Japanese theater. The no puppets, you know, it's just, well, but also that's suppressed. So the feeling comes from the body, not necessarily from the face, although the face is not blank.
But Mr. B usually saw you as contained and almost innocent on the surface with suppressed eroticism underneath. I mean, that's role after role.
He
Seven Deadly Sins.
Starting with Ibsiana.
Sonambula, Ibsiana, and this. That is very, at its most extreme, I think, in Bugaku. Where the surface is that Japanese politeness, etc. And yet, something underneath, sometimes dementia.
There's stirrings of all kinds of...
But did he say anything like that?
No, I had no clue. And also when he started the ballet with these movements, the girls dance alone, I thought it was going to be some kind of Japanese theater piece of indescribable description, meaning, I mean, it was not exactly kabuki, it was not Bugaku, it was not bunraku, it was not, you know, but yet it was its own thing. And they don't wear tutus in Japan, but that was it had the sense of a flower. So somehow it didn't feel wrong, the tutu. Particularly the tutu Krinska made with that pink fuchsia with the delicate rhinestone glittering. And also the wigs were black lame. So they were very, very light, and they gave that sort of sculptural look. They had highlights, but they were so light, so wonderful. He didn't explain, so I had no idea that 3 sections later, suddenly,
you were going.
I would appear basically undressed. Actually, my first, well, I don't know if it was my first clue, but one of the clues was costume fitting. Because when I got to Krinska, suddenly, oh, that's what I'm wearing.
A bikini.
Yes.
He said nothing, or very little.
He said very little.
I asked Eddie Valella the other night what he remembered, if he remembered anything Mr. B said. And the one thing he came up with, he said during the passage, I guess it's during the whisper passage, he said that Mr. B had said, think of goldfish nibbling.
Oh.
You know, those exotic
Beautiful.
Japanese
Those fish.
Fish.
Yeah.
Swimming and investigating, coming up to each other.
And
it's
that's also
image.
the fluid
under,
liquid movements of the fish.
You never heard that?
No, I didn't.
So maybe he said different things to each of you.
That is very true. This is the first time sexual encounter, so it shouldn't look like an experienced person. It should be very sensual and sexy, but it's all new territory, and not blatant, and it should be approached that way by the girl. And the man is definitely, as everyone has noticed, or you've definitely noticed, is more character and samurai. And it's, you know, it's kind of, it's a stance of power. And it's almost like an animal that isn't necessarily going to fight, but a kind of posture of power that immediately intimidates. The men are in third position, which is right, because it's more character. And I like to see the girls in a perfect fifth. Also, he didn't want a character makeup on the women. He just wanted a beautiful face, a little Shema Maidala, you know. So, but he wanted, I always thought very pale, a pale wash of white, because you have white translucent tights, so it gives the same effect with a white wash. There's a sort of more improvisational aspect than most of his ballets, but not really, because everything is there that he wanted. Things have to be there that he wants, but it's sort of maybe in the little tiny things.
Was it difficult for you? Were you embarrassed doing this?
I wasn't embarrassed, but I was, when he first demonstrated what he wanted, I was a little surprised and a little maybe shocked. I don't know. That was 37.
Jewish girls didn't know about that.
37 years ago. That 63. It's 99 now.
Well, you know, you still.
But as I said, some of these things have already appeared in his ballets. In Aegon, some of the positions are exactly the same, except that's done. One is done horizontally and the other is done vertically. One is done on the diagonal. One is done in different en face.
It's still a shocking moment when her legs open up directly at the audience.
It's also kind of the quality of how it's done that has to be absolutely right, or it turns into something else.
Was this the first ballet you and Eddie were made together?
Yes, this is the first. Eddie, some of this partnering is very unusual. This over the back, this. Getting into this really concise position before the extended rubbery pedal.
And was he helpful?
Yes, I mean, because, and also that off-balance split, that is very tricky for the man, because he has to put you exactly on your balance so that you can get into this rotation and then do that to the floor. So it's his sense of where my balance was perfect, and you really needed it for this. This is definitely unconventional partnering.
Presumably, since he made it out of you and Eddie, it was your qualities that he assumed were right.
I think that's so, and certainly. I mean, everything that he did for anyone was sort of maybe a part of their lives in some way, but not unseen. I mean, it's just sort of like.
To me, that's the answer, and you'll know better.
But I mean, his insight was so phenomenal.
See, when he chose, let's say you and Villella to do this, or X and Y to do something else, he made the ballet out of your qualities, so that he had to tell you the steps, but he didn't have to explain how they were to be done, because you were the material. You were going to do them your way. That's what he assumed.
Yeah, that's true.